This is the 2024 KTM RC 390. Now, is it the sportiest A2 offering? Let's find out. So KTM are always trying to push the boat out from their big bikes all the way down to their little bikes. It's all about aggression, hooliganism, and just being outright track focused. And the KTM RC 390 is the A2 offering for those who are looking for a sports bike, but also something that can do the road stuff and some on track. The RC 390 has always been the sportiest and most focused, aggressive A2 bike you can buy. Up against the CBR 500R, the recent Kawasaki Ninja 500 and other bikes in the segment, it's always had aggressive ergonomics, aggressive styling, aggressive performance, and that all translates into a sporty package. So what's new for 2024? The frame is lighter, they save about 1.5 kilograms. There's a new suspension setup with the front forks now featuring rebound and compression adjustments, and the rear has a rebound adjustment and a preload adjustment. So if you're going two up or you need to stiffen it because you're on the heavier side, you've got that option. All in, it's just about making this even more track focused. It's race level specifications for a race level bike. So for braking, we've got a 320mm disc up front with a 4-piston Bybree caliper, and on the rear we've got a 230mm disc with a single piston caliper, again provided by Bybree. ABS is provided by Bosch, and you've got cornering ABS and Supermoto ABS, and Supermoto ABS just basically allows you to switch off the rear ABS should you want some slide action on the track, preferably not on the road, but it just gives you the flexibility of switching it all off and having full control through the rear brake. Out on the road, the braking does feel really good. It's quite spongy on the front, but as you crank it on, it does cut in. The ABS does a good job, it's not too intrusive, and now with the upgraded suspension, which is adjustable, you can really find the settings that work best for you. So it's worth having a ride on it, having a play with the suspension and seeing what works. So the engine is a 373cc liquid-cooled single cylinder. It's got a 6-speed gearbox, and it is really punchy out on the road. As it's a single, it does sort of have that big 125 feeling, but once you start working your way through the gears, you realize this isn't a 125. It's got the performance of an A2 bike, and it is super aggressive. The acceleration off the line is fantastic, and we have the Quick Shifter Plus on this one, which is an additional few £100, but it absolutely gets the most out of the engine, allowing you to push it right up to the limit with seamless gear changes up and down. We've got new cast aluminium 5-spoke wheels, saving 3.5 kilograms of unsprung rotating mass. And whilst the dimensions are a bit smaller than some of the competitors, they do feel really nimble. It's so flickable and agile out on the road. You just can't help yourself but dipping and weaving at every possible opportunity, and it handles fantastically. We're running Michelin Power 6s, and they are super grippy. For a bike like this, they're more sporty focused, but they are a good all-round tyre. So it weighs in at 158 kilograms dry and has a 13.7 litre tank. So it's sort of sitting just over 170 kilograms when it's fully fueled, and it does feel extremely light. When you're at a standstill, you do feel a bit of the weight, but fortunately it's all lowered down, so manual handling is not an issue. And out on the road, the weight just lifts right off. KTM claim around 83 miles per gallon, but out here testing, we've sort of seen between 60 and 70. I think realistically, you're probably going to see about 200 miles on a full tank, but if you're really reserved, you might get to 300. The seat height is 824 millimeters, which isn't outrageous, but the foot peg position is very aggressive. So if you're quite tall, just bear in mind that your knees are going to be way up here. When you're on the road and you're really throwing it into corners and you're moving your weight around the bike, you can find those comfort spots. But for me, standing at about 6 foot, it does get a little bit cramped. The bars are super wide though, which is something I wasn't quite expecting from this bike. I thought it would be narrow and really slim like the tank worked, but the bars are super wide. They are quite low down, which is aggressive, but you're buying a sports bike, I think you're hoping that you're getting that aggression. But ultimately, for longer periods of time, you're going to start to feel it on your wrist. It's all about the way you sit on the bike, and if you're comfortable, you'll be fine. This year also sees foldable mirrors on the bike. The mirrors themselves are quite good. When I first saw them, I wasn't convinced about the visibility, but out on the road, they're really nice. The way they're shaped is to prevent you from seeing yourself too much and actually what you need to see behind you on the road. Not many vibrations. You know, this is a single, it's extremely vibey throughout the entire chassis, but on the mirrors, you don't pick up any of those vibrations. You get a nice, clear picture behind you. Now, that engine produces around 42.9 horsepower, so 43 horsepower, and around 37 newton meters of torque. You lose the torque compared to some of the other N2 competitors down to the displacement, but the power is really pushing on for what is a 373cc engine. It's got a TFT display on there, it's got everything you need. It's got your speed, it's got your fuel, it's got your average miles per gallon, it's your current miles per gallon, but it's all set up in a sort of track focused way. You've got things like lap timers on there and stuff, so for those who are going on track, it's probably an ideal setup, but for those on the road, it's probably just a bit too much faff pressing through all the buttons. But equally, it's a clean dash and it looks really nice. It's got automatic dimming and things like that, so in the bright light of the sun, you don't get caught out, and equally when it's darker at night, you can see it nice and clearly. It's got traction control on there. KTM call it motorcycle traction control. It's just traction control. It's basically on or off. It does work pretty well. It's not too intrusive because the power of the bike, you know, you can push it on and there's no flashing of the traction control light or anything, but in the corners sometimes it cuts in and it's just a nice little safety feature. It's heavily inspired by the MotoGP RC16 from KTM, and you can see it in just the pure aggression. It's a really, really cool looking bike, and it does stand out from the A2 crowd where you have some quite traditional or maybe boring looking bikes. All this new bodywork isn't just for the looks though. It does improve the aerodynamics over the previous model, leading to a higher top speed, and this front massive windscreen is providing class leading wind protection. It does feel really good on the road. You do always catch it at the top, you get a bit of buffeting on your lid, but for the most part your body, your shoulders, you feel very comfortable and you're not getting dragged around by the wind. It's actually a very well-rounded bike, so yes, it is in fact the sportiest offering I think in the A2 category, but it's still not ridiculously sporty that you can't just pop to the shops on it. I've really enjoyed my time with the RC390. I think it's a fantastic bike in this segment. Having ridden a few of the other ones, I can see why someone would be more inclined to take this over a practical, more comfortable bike. It just brings out that hooligan in you, much like KTM want it to. Be sure to head over to the Carol Nash website to read my full blog, and I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.